Token Deathmage here. We are once again checking out Pokemon Elite Redux. Elite Redux is the incredible ROM hack developed by a talented team headed by one James Lyons. They've reworked old Pokemon, giving them new types where appropriate, as well as new moves and abilities. There are new evolutions for some Pokemon, and new regional variants called Redux forms. The big draw of the hack is the innate system, where every Mon has 4 abilities.
Everyone's favorite Hex Maniac here with a few words. I normally do this thing at the end, but I got a lot to say this time. First of all, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the entire team, including developers, Discord mods, art crew, coders, concept creators, and the balance team. Special shout out to Raliv this time, who spreaded most of the mons I used this run. Secondly, a huge announcement. Yours truly has been designated an official Elite Redux YouTube partner, standing shoulder to shoulder with giants such as Blunder and Skill Link. So I wanted to thank James, Community Manager Yuki, as well as Kyle the Eevee who set up my Discord role. Finally, a note, community input is always appreciated, but remember to treat developers with dignity and respect. Oh, and one last thing guys, if we ever need another alpha tester, Ryan the Flygon has my full vote of confidence. Configuring my settings, I go with Ace Mode once again, going for more caps and enabling permanent mag evolution. Normal's not a word I'm used to being called. Nevertheless, that is my choice this time, so that's what I tell May. Heading out to rescue Birch. Starter options are Igglybuff, Whismur, and Porygon. I go with Porygon, who is actually incredible. One-shotting the Zigzagoon with a Sonic Boom. I receive my National Dex from Birch, and then head up to the Pokemon Center, talking to Nurse Joy, so that I can get my Dex Nav, and all of my items. Using the Dex Nav, I grab a bunch of friends, the main one being Shuppet. I pick up a bunch more guys, including a Kricketune and a Trumpy, so I have some evolved Pokemon already. Heading over to face May. She starts off with a Torchic, and I lead with my Porygon, who survives a Fire Blast, boosted by a Fire Gem, going for an Energy Wave of May's Goomy, before being taken out by Water Pulse. So I bring in for Boom, and take the Goomy down with an Air Slash, winning the one-sided battle, and moving on to Calvin for a real challenge. He leads with his Tinkaton, and I lead Delia the Kricketune. Doing a lot of damage with a Slash, even though it's not very effective. Being taken out by a Cubba, I go in a Slappy, finishing the Tink with an Astonish, getting taken down to Focus Sash by a Poopy and his knockoff, nearly taking it down with a Play Rough. It survives on 1, so I swap in a Sloth, a Munchlax. He takes the Poochyena down, and Calvin brings in his Diglett, taking my Munchlax out, so I go back into Porygon. The Diglett goes for a Metal Claw, having an Ice Beam with its Focus Sash. The second Ice Beam takes it down, and Calvin brings out his Seal. So I swap back into Slappy, sacrificing into a Surf, and switch into Simmons. Protect to get Guts up, going for a Headbutt, almost one-shotting it, but it survives healing up. It gets taken out by a second Headbutt. Making my way past a few more trainers, I find myself in Middleburg Woods, where a Devon researcher is attacked by a Team Aqua Grunt, and I have to have my next boss battle. He leads with a Squirrel, but I lead with Symbol. Not a great choice, going for a Hyper Voice, getting destroyed by a critical Hydro Pump. I swap in a Gandhi, finishing the Poison type off with an extra Sensory, as the Aqua guy brings out his Carvana. It protects, getting a Speed Boost, nearly taking me out with a Crunch. Getting another Speed Boost and finishing my Watchdog off with an Aqua Fang. I go into Nerfy, who almost gets taken out by a Crunch, but survives, and ends the Carvana with a Thunderbolt. Marini comes in and knocks him off, so I bring out for Boom, setting up a Sword Stance, but using my swirly glasses so it doesn't melt. I go for a few Air Slashes before being taken out by a Sludge Bomb, going into Joey, setting up Protect so I can get Frostbitten, and hitting the facade. Finishing the Aqua Grunt off, and getting the EXP share from the Devon guy. Over at Restboro City, it's time for our first gym battle, against the Rock-type specialist Roxanne, who leads with an Anorith. I go Julia, doing a bunch of damage with an Aqua Cutter, nearly being taken out, finishing it with a second Aqua Cutter. Roxanne then brings out her Norbat, one swap with her Turret, going for a knockoff, taking the Ghost down. She then goes into a Corsola, so I swap Drinky, getting trapped in a Whirlpool, and hitting a Thunderbolt. He counters with a Power Gem, healing up quite a bit, so that a second Thunderbolt gets taken down. Going for a Bubble Beam, taking out my Porygon, so I bring out Donnie, break it off with a Crunch, but it's sets up a layer of spikes. Actually brings out a Lily, who also gets crunched and sets up Stealth Rock. Second crunch finishes the Lily, and she goes into a nose pass. But Julia, who dies to all the hazards, and then into Gandhi, and put it to sleep with a hypnosis. I spam energy waves while it's sleeping, but it wakes up and hits a thunder wave, one for a power gem, but not taking me out. I get full parrot, twice in a row, and it manages to take out Gandhi. So I bring in Donnie, and he hyper fangs for the win, earning me my first gym badge. At the request of my Devon friend, I head east where I find an angry old man outside a cave, lamenting that his bird has been stolen. Heading inside the cave, I find the aqua guy from before, along with the old man's bird. I challenge him to a battle, which he leads with a drag load, and I lead Joey, now evolved to Eradicate, going for Protect so that I can get frostbitten. As the drag load gets a speed boost. My quick feet still at speed, and I go for a crunch, taking it down to Focus Ash, getting a grown G-boost, but it retaliates with a Dragon Claw, taking Joey down. So I bring Donnie out, finish him with another crunch. Goes into a Krabby next, and I swap out into Porygon, taking a Hammer Arm but surviving, then getting taken out by an Aqua Jet before I can do anything. So I swap into Montana, with Eradicate, but he goes down to a Hammer Arm, and Donnie has to come back in, killing the crab with a Hyper Fang. Barbana comes back, and goes for a crunch on Donnie, but he's eaten by a Hyper Fang as well, as the Aqua guy brings out a Drifloon, so I go into Slop. He absolutely takes an Air Slash, going for a Heavy Slam. Next turn, I go for a Yawn, enduring 4 Air Slashes. But the Drifloon has a berry and clears its seat. We go back and forth for a while, but my Snorlax is super bulky, and is able to take an infinite number of Air Slashes, eventually finishing it off with Heavy Slams, even surviving the aftermath. As the Aqua guy goes for his last Pokemon Flat Tire, he goes for a Earth Power before being on. The second Earth Power can't finish Sloth, and I go for a return before finally being taken out. On the rough skin, bringing in Gandhi, finishing the Poison type off with Master Sensory, getting the old guy's bird back along with the Devon parts. Mr. Briny thanks me, and I return to the city where May is waiting. She wants to have a battle, and kicks it off with a Swellow. I leave the Hank to Furth, but the Blue Burst, leaving the Swellow out with a return. He then goes into Serena, who gets Fire Punched, before taking my bird out with a knockoff. He heals up a bit with Fluter, I go into Corduroy. He does Stuffle, taking it out with a Jutsu Slap. She then brings in her Starmie, going for a Water Gem boosted Hydro Pump and taking out my bear. His innards out finishes her Pokemon, and I bring in Ditbird the Pidgey, taking flight, taking out her Rooster. She goes to Rodriguez. I go Low Bunny, but swap out, going for an Ice Ball with my Double. He keeps spamming moves trying to take Double down. It's not enough. I keep gaining momentum on this Ice Ball, eventually being taken out by a Burn. So I go Porygon, and Ice Beam finishes it, earning me my second May victory, and a quick ride over to Mr. Briny's house, who gives me a lift on his boat across the ocean. Over in a cave in Rustboro, we run into Stephen Stone, and he challenges us to a battle as well, because why not? Leading with a Mawile, I lead Zumba, going for a Fire Blast, taking a Steel type out in one drop, getting a special attack boost from Buford. He then goes into a Great Wither, taking my Fire type out with a Power Gem. I go on Babs, and for a Punch. He goes for a Giga Drain here a little bit, but gets taken out by a Rolling Kick, as he brings out his Metang. So I swap into Montana, avoiding the second type attack, going for a Stuffed Cheeks, and taking a Thunder Punch, clinching him with a Bite, going for another one, enduring another Thunder Punch, and then surviving a critical, healing up with my Citrus Berry, finally finishing him after a few bites. Steve then brings out a Redux Lariat, and I swap out into Drinky, getting hit by a Rock Blast, and going down before I can do anything. So I bring Babs out again, Power Up Punch, but she gets taken out by an Aqua Tail. I go into Donnie next, and he comes in on a Rock Blast too, going for a Crunch, but not taking it out. The second Crunch manages to drop its defense, and we actually hang hang on after a rock blast. Bringing it down with a third crunch. Our battle with Steven. I hand him a letter from his dad. Then head over to Slateport City so I can grab the next gym leader Brawly and bring him back to his gym. Even with a Ponyard Redux, as I leave Shipper, going for a heat wave and taking the single type down. He brings in a Pommo next. We'll swap out in a Corduroy. Surviving a wild charge, no problem. Going for a cutesy slap. Toxicroak comes out next. Using a sludge to take out my fairy. I do massive damage with Prince out, but swapping Slappy. Going for an Astonic. A Lick takes the Toxicroak out, and Brawly brings in his low kicks. Which pounces on Slappy, taking him down. He gets cursed. I go back into Shitbird, finishing him off with a Take Flight. I go in for a Boom. Gets Brawly's last Pokemon, Hariyama. Never taking it out, one shot with an Air Slash. Before being taken down by a Vital Throw. So I bring out Treble to Chatot, and Shatter for the win. Defeating Brawly easily with all of my birds, and getting me my second gym badge. With Brawly out of the way, the evolution floodgates open, and I have access to a bunch of third stages, including Watchdog's new evolution Zercat, 2 third stage rats, and a convergent Garganackle Gargablocks. Over at the museum, we have the Aqua Gauntlet to deal with. First guy kicks things off with a Bloom, Donnie, going for a Crush Claw, and restraining ordering him out into the low kicks. Swapping Steve against the low kicks, taking the Rider Kick, setting up spikes with drop blocks, and chipping in with Rocky on the damage. Healing back to recover after he hits me again. Third kick attack confuses me, but I keep on recovering, and the grassy terrain is really helping his cause. Eventually Steve hits himself, and a Rider Kick manages to take him down. So I go into Treble, newly evolved into Orchestot, finishing the low kicks off with a for the Shatter. Bloom comes back around now, getting shattered as well. Hitting the first grunt, so his partner can take over. Grunt number 2 leads with a Poliwrath, getting Fresh Clawed, and hitting a weak Focus Punch. Getting swapped out into a Swallow with Restraining Order, so I go Montana. Fighting. I swap out into Gandhi so I'm not doing much damage. Putting it to sleep with Hypnosis, and hitting it hard with a Mind Break. It heals up with a Citrus Berry, but a second Mind Break takes it down to the red again, and after it hits itself in confusion, I take it out with a third. Poliwrath comes back around, YouTube is taken out by Mind Break, easily handling the second grunt, as their boss comes in, and Darcy tries to take me down himself. He leads with Crobat, so he gets Bread Clawed, and got in one shot. Bringing out his Torpedo next, he goes for an Aqua Fang, pushing Donnie, swapping out into his Gabite. I go Montana. He gets hit by a Liquidate, healing up with a Citrus Berry, causing his greedy ability to trigger Thief. Taking out the Gabite, Torpedo comes back around. He goes for an Aqua Fang. Nearly being taken out by a Lovely Bite, Montana manages to survive a second Aqua Fang, taking the Shark down. As Archie goes into his Toadscroll, finishing my rat off, so I bring out Treble. Missing my Chatter, I go for a Sing, putting it to sleep. Then Chatter away, doing massive damage and confusing it, but it survives and I take it out with a Hyper Voice. Finishing Archie off, and showing Team Aqua that I'm no one to mess with. Post Archie ass kicking, I attempt to make my way to the next gym, but Miss May has other plans and decides to get in my way. She takes the battle off with her Swellow, and I lead Joey the Rataking, going for a fake out. His Tangle Tail's ability is triggering, giving the Swellow negative priority on all of his moves, so I can go first with Crunch next turn and take it out. Serena comes in next, so I swap out into Drinky, setting up Trick Room, but getting taken out by a high jump kick. So I bring in Gandhi, taking the Serena down with a Mind Break. May sends out her Blaziken, but it too falls to a Mind Break. Bolt comes out next, being put to sleep by Hypnosis, showcasing just how hard Zercat goes in Trick Room. I do massive damage with a return, taking it down with the second one as it sleeps through its speed boost. May then brings out her Starmie, so I swap out into Montana, surviving an Ice Beam, and then a Thunderbolt, healing up with my Citrus Berry, triggering Greedy, doing massive damage with a Thief. It goes for another Ice Beam, going down to a Bite, as May brings out her Mimikyu, who kills Montana with a Drain Punch. So I swap back into Joey. The Mimikyu starts to bulk up and I break its disguise with Crunch. Going for a second one, almost taking it down, as it continues to bulk up. but thanks to Tangled Tails, it doesn't matter, and Joey takes it down. Moving May out of the way, so that I can move on to Mauville City, where Wally is waiting for a battle outside the gym. He leads with his Ladian, and I lead Garga blocks. Getting beat by a Brick Break, doing a little bit of Rocky Helmet damage and set up spikes. Next turn, my blocks goes down to a Dizzy Punch, so I go into Drinky, and take the Ladian down with an Energy Wave. Wally then goes into a Bear Tick, who gets Energy Waved as well, where he brings his Blade out. But a 2 gets one-shotted. He tries to bring his Delcatty out, for Y swap into Gandhi, going for a Hyper Voice, moving Wally aside so that I can get into the gym. The gym trainer is out of the way, I can finally challenge the leader, the Electric Specialist Watson, who leads with a Lantern, as I lead Porygon too, setting up a Trick Room, and going for an Energy Wave, getting paralyzed by a Thunder Wave, which only makes me faster. A second Energy Wave takes the Lantern out, and Watson brings out a Manectric, who gets one-shotted, so he goes into a Clodophyser. I swap out into Chilla, the Benachino, a new 3rd stage Minchino evolution, taking a hit from the Clodophyser and going for a Rock Blast. Despite its Chardy Berry, I get a crit. Watson then brings out his Arashine, so I swap out into a Heliolisk that I got specifically for this fight, absorbing its Parabolic Charge and raising my special attack, then going for a Mud Bomb, getting a crit and one-shotting it. Magnezone comes out next, and it too takes a Mud Bomb, using a berry to weaken the damage. Going for a Bug Buzz, doing a significant chunk. A second Mud Bomb takes it down, and Watson goes into his last Pokemon, Redux Cloud. A couple of Mud Bombs end it too, as it keeps raising my special attack, and I make short work of the 3rd leader, getting myself a Dynamo badge. 3rd badge in hand, I head over to Meteor Falls to help May with a Magma problem. The 2 of us teaming up to take on their admin Courtney, who's partnered with Grunt. They lead with a Ninetales and a Cherub, May leads with a Pikachu, and I go Orchestot, going for a Sing, putting the Ninetales to sleep. I'm getting a special attack buff from Throat Spray. Pikachu uses a Slam, taking the Cherub down, as the bad guys bring out a Sagaractus, who gets one-shot by a Chatter, which crits the Ninetales as well, taking it out in the process. They then bring out an Arcanine and a Lilligant, and I go for a Sing, which puts both to sleep thanks to Amplifier, as the Pikachu handles Lilligant. They then bring out a Redux Houndoom, as I go for a Chatter, confusing both of them, but not quite taking them out. The Houndoom hurts itself in confusion, and they're down to just Arcanine, who goes for a Heat Wave, and I end things with Moonburst, taking May's Pikachu out in the process, leaving just Orchestot standing. Archie comes in and thanks us for handling the Magma guys, chasing them up to the volcano, where I hitch a trolley ride to the top, and have a showdown with Team Magma's leader, Maxie. He starts the battle off with a Rotom, and I lead with my Porygon Z. Going for a Zap Cannon, almost taking it out in one shot. Surviving its overheat. Maxie then hard switches into Camerupt, while I hard switch into Spin Daze, a normal fighting poison type evolution for Spinda. I go for Protect, so that its Toxic Spill ability can do a little bit of damage. Being hit by a Soil Drain, but healing back most of the damage with a Wish next turn. I go for a Strength, stalling out again with Protect, and use Strength again to buff my special defense, thanks to its contrary ability. Taken down to 1 by a Flame Burst, almost taking the Camerupt out with a superpower, and then bringing it down with Toxic Spill, as Maxie goes back around to his Rotom again, finishing Looper off, so I bring Gandhi out, and destroy his Rotom with a Mind Break, as he brings out a Venusaur, which one-shots my ground type with a Giga Drain, so I bring out Burboom, going for a Peck, bringing the Venusaur down. Maxie then brings out a Porygon too, so I swap in a Donnie, swapping it out with Restraining Order into his Wylos, who gets hit by a Lunge, countering with a Dragon Pulse, almost taking Donnie down next turn, getting hit by a Crush Claw, but still surviving. So I hard swap Drinky, going down to a Dark Pulse, but setting up Trick Room, so Donnie can come back in, and clears the Wylos off. Maxie then brings out a Reveroom, which Donnie one-shots with an Earthquake. Going back to his Porygon Z, he hits a Swift, finishing me off, so I bring Burboom back out, going for a Peck after tanking a Flash. A second Peck takes the Porygon 2 out, and Maxie is defeated, putting his evil plans on pause, and With Team Magma out of the way, I'm free to head on over to Lava Ridge Town and take on the Fire Leader Flannery, who kicks the battle off with the Sunflora, and I lead with Sloth the Snorlax, taking a Grass Pledge, going for a Yawn. I swap out into Delia so that I can set up the rain, surviving another Grass Pledge, as the Sunflora falls asleep, getting hit by a Slash, and almost going down to a second one. A third Slash finally takes it out, and Flannery brings out her short Temple, who sets the sun up again, so I swap back into Sloth, getting hit by a Body Press, going down to the red. A second Body Press stays my Snorlax out, so I go back around to Delia again and make it rain, going for an Aqua Cutter but barely doing any damage. She gets taken out by a Lava Plume, so I try Gandhi, hypnotizing it as it sets up an Iron Defense. So I swap out into Drinky and try to hit it on the special side with a Techno Blast, doing massive damage as Flannery goes into her Executor, which gets crit by a Techno Blast, going down in one shot. It brings out her Redux Arcanine, going for extreme speed. The Drinky survives it, Techno Blasts that too. Flannery then goes into Magcargo, and I hard swap into Wigglesworth, my Wigglytuff, and put it to sleep with a Sing, going for an Energy Wave, then swapping out into Gandhi, as it goes for a Shell Smash. Magcargo goes for a Burn Up, one-shotting my Surcat, so I go out into Spin Daze, stall with Protect, but it sets up again. So I hard swap Drinky, setting up the Trick Room to take care of its speed boost, then bring Looper back out, and hit the Superpower. Flannery's last Pokemon is a Cerulege, which clean tongues my Spin Daze, but we hang on going for his Strength, taking a second Flame Tongue, taking it down, defeating Flannery, carrying me my Heat Badge. Outside the gym we have a little chat with May, and Flannery comes out, asking us to go to Sunhallow, so that we can deal with Team Magma once again. Pursuing Flannery's task, I head on over to Sunhallow and find dear old Dad. He asked me to battle this Magma guy for him, so I showed him what for. Beating with a Benachino against his Alolan version, getting hit by a Feint Attack, slowed its speed. Going for Fairy Spheres, so not do much damage, as the Persian has an ability to blow up Scorpion. So I bring Donnie out, and hit a super effective lunge, switching it out with Restraining Order on Dark Pulse, to a Sneasler. So I hard swap out into Gandhi, taking the Fake Out, getting poisoned in the process, nearly going down to a Cross Chop, and destroy the Sneasler with an Earthquake. Gandhi gets taken out by the Persian's Low Blow when it comes back. Gandhi almost gets taken out by Persian's Low Blow when it comes back. Gandhi goes down to the Persian, and it comes back around, so I go back into Donnie again, and finish it off with a lunge. The Grunt then brings out a Skuntank, and sets up a nasty plot, but gets one-shotted by Earthquake, then goes into a Swalot, hitting a Sludge Bomb, getting halved by Donnie's Earthquake, as he goes down to Poison. So I bring out Drinky, surviving another Sludge Bomb, then hit a big Techno Blast, taking the Swalot out. And a stealth segment ensues, where we sneak into a pyramid. Inside the pyramid, we're met with heavy resistance, and as we're about to formulate a plan with Norman's friend Brandon, Team Aqua comes charging through, and I press on the top of the pyramid, where Maxie and Courtney are located, and Courtney takes me on, leading with her Ninetales, as I lead Raticking. Tanking an Incinerate, hitting back hard with a Crunch, get it down thanks to Tangled Tails, and healing it up with Looter. Lilligan Hisui comes out next, so I hard swap in a Slappy, seeing the fighting type attack coming, going for a Fake Out, being hit by a Leaf Blade, then hitting the Lilligan back, Poltergeist, getting a crit and taking it down. Now new Redux comes out next, so I pop a Shadow Sneak, not quite killing it, getting taken out by a Flamethrower. I send out Babs then, and Rolling Kick it in the face, as Courtney brings out her Klefki. So I set up a Victory Dance, as the Klefki goes for Light of Ruin, taking my Low Bunny down, so I go into Gandhi, getting hit by a Swagger, and put it to sleep with Hypnosis. I go for an Earthquake while it's asleep, taking it out, getting hit by the Recoil as Courtney goes Charizard, taking Gandhi down with a Flamethrower. So I go into Drinky, and Techno Blast, one-shotting the Charizard, as Courtney goes into her last Pokemon Granbull, and I Techno Blast again, thankful that I wasn't locked in the Zap Cannon. Courtney out of the way, I'm about to take Maxie on, but Archie interrupts us, along with his Team Aqua Goons, as Maxie makes his escape, and Archie follows close behind. Norman invites us to Petalburg, where after obtaining my Mega Bracelet, I'm ready to challenge Dad with the title of Supreme Normalcy. I lead with Drinky and he leads with Tauros. I go for a Techno Blast, one-shotting his bull. He then goes into a Sawsbuck, so I swap out into Slappy. Goes for a Fighting type move, going through my notes. I fake out, and then parting shot out, going into Corduroy, using Fluffiest to survive Bullet Seed. Norman hard swaps out into his own Porygon Seed, which gets Dynamic Punched, confused, as I hard swap out into Looper, who gets hit by a Zap Cannon. So I go into Trinky, who's slower, which means faster in the Trick Room, and take Norman's Porygon Z down with a Techno Blast. Z circles back around into his Sawsbuck, which gets Techno Blasted as well. Norman then brings out an Azumarill, which 2 is one-shotted by the unstoppable Trinky, who is then actually stopped by a Banette. Mega evolves, as I hard swap into my disguised Zoroark, going for an Ice Beam, getting hit by a Play Rough. The Banette heals up with Soul Eater, and I send out my own Banette, intimidating his, going for a Destiny Pawn, but it doesn't work, as this doesn't do enough damage. So I hard swap Joey, and King Shield, to lower its attack even further. Norma then swaps out into his Talonflame, which takes a Grudge, and then gets taken down by a Headbutt. As Joey heals up, Norma goes back in his Banette, which sets up a Leech Seed thanks to the Gym skill, getting its attack lowered once again by Kin Shield, and hitting a hard return, getting crunched back. I go for a King Shield once again, then hard swap into Slappy, this time Destiny Bonding Ray, defeating Norman in a funny way, and getting my balance badge, making me the most normal. Heading east of Mauville after defeating Dad, I run into my old friend Steven Stone once again. He kicks the battle off with a Genesect. I leave with Slappy, going for a fake out, despite not being able to intimidate. A Last Respects takes the Genesect down, and Steven goes into a Mawile, which intimidates me, so I parting shot out, going into Ted. He takes a Snap Trap, and then a Lovely Bite, before power up punching, surviving another Lovely Bite, and going for a Drain Punch, taking the Mawile down and doing back a bit of damage. Steve brings his Metagross out next, which send headbutts, taking Ted down, so I go to Simba and hit a Synchronize. My Lion gets then headbutted as well. He survives, going for a Scorching Sand. Heal it up with Predator, as Steve brings in his Redux Aggron, so I hard swap into Drinky, getting hit by a Jagged Horn and then an Aqua Bash, going into Rue, my Mega Kangaskhan I got from Dad. Rue tanks an Aqua Bash, power up punching, and survives that Jagged Horn, going for a bite before being taken out. So I go back into Slappy, taking out, then going for a Last Respects. Steve brings out his Escargonite next, and I parting shot out, going back to Simba, but getting hit by a Rock Wrecker instead of a Fire attack, so I go treble, and miss my Sing, getting trapped in a Fire Spin, hitting the sleep on the second turn. I chatter to get Confusion up, then just keep spamming, try to do a bit of damage before my bird goes down, eventually being taken out by the Fire Spin, going back around in the Slappy once more, finishing the Escargonite with the Last Respects, as Steve goes into his last Pokemon, Aegislash. It absolutely stands no chance against Slappy. Following my battle with Steven, on my way to Fortree City, I find myself at the weather station where I have to take down Team Aqua and their admin Shelly. She leads with a Sneasler, I lead Slappy, going for a fake out, doing massive damage, and sucker punching, taking the Sneasler out, as she goes into a Mouserata. So I swap Ted, losing my Tack Vest to the knockoff, hit by a Flower Trick, and then Drain punching, and back all the damage. She brings in Redux Infernape next, Mega evolving it, using a Drain Punch of its own. It nearly takes Ted out, but he's the fluffiest boy, and then go for a power-up punch, and then a feint, moving Infernape out, as she goes around to Rotom Ice. So I hard swap Slappy, and smack it with a Last Respects. Bastion Legion comes out next, and I parting shot out, going into Sloth, taking a Dark Pulse no problem, and a super effective Ice Beam that just tickles him, hitting with a Wood Hammer. Another Ice Beam does no more damage than the first, and a second Wood Hammer takes the Bastion Legion out. Healing up with my Shell Bell, and Jelly goes into a Bronzong. So I swap into Montana, going for a Stuffed Cheeks, raising my defense up, and the two tanks go back and forth, fighting and gyro-balling. The Bronzong begins to take the lead thanks to his leftovers, and my Rat is brought down despite his best efforts, leaving Slappy to finish the job with the Last Respects. Team Aqua skedaddles, and I get a cast form that I'll never use. Outside the weather station, May pulls up, looking for a fight, so of course I have to oblige her. In a base move, she leads with a Linoon, but I let Corduroy. Linoon goes for a Surf. I go Dynamic Punch, absolutely blowing it up, and she brings out her dress Pikachu, going for a Pixie Beam, taking Corduroy down, so I go Slappy. Almost taking it out in one shot with a Fake Out, finishing it off with a Sucker Punch. Fantail comes out next, so I Parting Shot out, going in a Drinky. Fantail hits a Blood Moon, and then a Snarl, lowering my special attack, but I have Electric Terrain Zap Cannon. It goes Blaziken next, that'd be evolving. It gets Zap Cannon too, so she goes into Hisui and Goodra, and I Swaparoo, getting Dragon Rushed. I go for a Fake Out, despite not doing much, just to get a Fidget Chip, hitting a Power Up Punch next turn, before being taken out by a Dragon Rush. So I go Joey next, and after tanking a Dragon Rush as well, he goes Hyper Fang, triggering Tangle Tails. I go King Shield next turn, so I can heal a bit with leftovers, going for a Crunch and managing to get the defense drop. Hunter goes for a Spin Out, getting a chunk of health back with a Shell Bell, so I King Shield again to drop its attack. They hard swaps out then into a Rapska, which comes in on a Crunch, just barely surviving. Taken out by a Hyper Fang next turn, going back to her Goodra. I go in a Slappy, hitting it with a Fake Out, taking a Spin Out, finishing it with Last Respects, ending my last battle with May, so that I can finally proceed to Fortree, where I challenge the Flying type leader Winona, running in with all the gym skills up. I lead with my Blood Moon Ursaluna, and hit by a Hurricane, going for a Blood Moon, taking the Swallow out. Tropius comes in next, setting up Air Blower, so I hard swap Drinky, picking up the Trick Room, going for an Ice Beam, not taking it out because of the Frostbite. I bring in Slappy next, for a Fake Out to finish the Tropius, as Winona brings out her Aerodactyl, which hits Slappy with a Head Smash, so I bring in Kyle to Eevee, surviving a Head Smash of his own, paralyzing it with a Buzzy Buzz, then using a Swift to finish it off. Swarmery Redux comes out next, taking Kyle out with a Flame Tongue, so I bring Joey in, going for a King Shield to lower its attack. It misses a Scalper, getting hit by a Crunch, taking a bit of damage from a Hyper Fang next turn, or another Crunch crits, takes it down. Winona then goes into a Corviknight, uses a Steel Beam, doing a whole lot of damage to Joey. I go for a Crunch, dropping my own defense because of Mirror Armor, finally going down to an Air Slash, going back into Scarlet, and Moongeist beaming. Winona then brings out her Altaria, Mega Evolving it, and hitting a Dragon Rage, but Scarlet survives, and hits a Blood Moon. I didn't get my Feather Badge. Making my way through the now mandatory floors of Mount Pyre, I finally reach the summit, where I run into the crew rep, who kicks things off with a Mawile, as I go Simmons the Obstagoon, going for Obstruct at the gate, and hitting a Body Press, and being hit by a crit Lovely Bite. I go for a knockoff next turn, then another Lovely Bite with barely any damage, and I finish the Mawile with a Body Press, as the crew rep brings out an Absol. I get evolving it as I go for an Obstruct, and get hit by a Hurricane next turn, and a Kyle, cancel Light of Ruin, goes for the Fuzzy Buzz, as the crew trainer hard swaps into a Golur on my Swift, hitting a Seismic Fist, almost taking Kyle down, as I go for a Batty Bad, sending up Reflect. He hard swaps out in a Serena, hitting a knockoff, so I go Drinky, and launch a Techno Blast, bringing the Serena down, as the crew rep brings the Absol back out. Lucy gets Techno Blasted, going into a Swampert, so I hard swap Looper, confusing the Swampert with Teeter Dance on entry, smacking it with a Close Combat. Golurk comes out killing my Spin Days, and I go for Boom, hitting a Steel Beam, bringing the Golem down, as the crew rep brings out a Kecleon, taking out, but not doing much. By a Steel Beam next turn, another Steel Beam nearly takes it out, I trigger it Outburst does, and I can move on to the graveyard where Team Mucklat and Matt is waiting to challenge me. He kicks in with a Poor Barnacle, and I lead with Nimbus, my Mega Grandpa. Taking a Razor Shell, getting a couple of defense drops. I hit a Thunder, taking his Poor Barnacle down in one shot. He goes into a Blastoise, and when evolving it, make a Blastoise X. So I go into Ted, taking an Ice Punch, going for a Power-Up Punch, and then getting hit by a Spike Cannon, which does a lot more damage than I thought it was going to do. I go into Looper then, confusing the Blastoise with the Teeter Dance, and hitting a Close Combat. With Blastoise out of the way, Matt goes into a Gyarados, so I swap in a Joey, surviving its Zen Headbutt, and going for a King Shield to drop its attack. Gyarados goes for another Zen Headbutt, as I hit it with a Crunch, putting it down on the third Tangle Tails hit. Matt then goes into a Redux Machamp, hitting Joey with a Sky Uppercut, but getting obliterated by a Play Rough. A Alolan Muck comes out, and finishes Joey off with a knockoff, so I bring Nimbus back around, who's barely hanging on after a Gunk Shot, hitting with a Thunder, and then a Thunderbolt on the trigger. Swapping out into Looper. As the Muck hits itself in confusion, getting itself down. Carnivine comes out next, getting hit by a Fake Out. And then a Viral Strike, countering with a Snap Trap, before being taken out by a Feint. And with Matt out of the way, I can proceed forward to Archie, who now challenges you to a battle here, which he leads with a Lantern. It hits Nimbus with an Ice Beam, barely doing any damage, as I go for a Dragon Pulse and accidentally heal it with the Thunderbolt trigger. It hits another Ice Beam, being hit by a Dragon Pulse, and we go back and forth like this for a while. Eventually it gets low enough that a Hyper Beam can take it down, and Archie goes into his Sharpedo, which finishes my Grandpa off with a crunch. So I go into Looper, hoping it can hit itself in confusion, but it doesn't work. Hyper aggressiving through my Focus Sash, causing me to go into Ted and hit it with a Drain Punch, revealing that he has a Focus Sash of his own. I feint through its Protect, taking the Sharpedo down, as Archie goes into his Redux Garchomp, getting hit by Darkest Lariat, taking my Bear out with an Aqua Cutter. As I go Joey in Team Field, I'm able to take it down with a Crunch, and Archie brings out his Goodra, which uses a Flash Cannon on Ted, before being hit by a Drain Punch, which doesn't heal up enough to survive another Flash Cannon. So I go in for Boom, the Mega Toucanon. The Goodra heals up with a Citrus Berry, hitting my Toucanon with an Earthquake, being hit by a Searing Shot. Another Earthquake almost takes my bird down, and a third Searing Shot finally takes the dragon out. Archie then goes into a Wishy-Washy, I swap Drinky. He then hard swaps into a Crobat, Mega Evolving, being hit by a Zap Cannon. Goes for a Double Edge, but a second Zap Cannon takes it out, and Archie goes back around to his Wishy-Washy again, who too gets Zap Cannoned, bringing the fish down as Archie takes his leave. And I'm given a mission to go to Team Magma's base now. Inside the Magma hideout I find Maxie, using the Red Orb to awaken Groudon. And since I can't allow him to get away with that, I have to challenge him to a battle. He kicks it off with a Deoxys, which hits a Psycho Boost, being absolutely obliterated by a Hyper Beam from Nimbus. He then goes into a Behem, and I swap in a Sloth, being hit by a Shadow Ball, hit the Behem with a Wood Hammer, doing less than I thought, and Maxie hard swapped into a Volcarona. Wood Hammer does barely anything to it, and I hard swap Nimbus. He takes a Skitter Smack, and Skitter Smack severely cripples my special attack. And I hit a Hidden Power, but it and the Trigger Thunderbolt aren't enough. I barely hang on after another Skitter Smack, finally taking the Volcarona down, as Maxie brings out his Tropius, which Chloroblast, destroying Nimbus. So I bring out Drinky, and Ice Beam, obliterating the Grass Dragon. Maxie then goes into a Porygon Z of his own, and I swap in a Sloth, going down and bringing out my Porygon again, hitting a Technoblast, and obliterating Maxie's. He then brings out his Behem again, which hits a super effective Shadow Ball and Drinky, before being hit by Technoblast, forcing Maxie into his last Pokemon Camerupt. I go Gargablox, and using Conversion 2 change it to a Water type to resist the fire attack, using my Rocky Helmet to do the damage. But the Camerupt has Slack Off, so I have to rip a Tri-Attack. I survive another Flare Blitz, going for an Earth Power, thwarting Maxie's plans, at least for now. A Magma guy runs in, teleporting me to Slateport, where inside the harbor, we witness Matt and Archie steal us up. I track them to their base in Lily Cove City, where I have a battle with Admin Matt. He leads with his Blastoise this time, going for a Fake Out, getting Power Up Punch by Ted, before taking a little bit of damage from a Feint, taking Ted down with an Ice Beam. I bring Looper out, confusing it, going for a Fake Out for Chip, then it plays Combat, still failing to bring it down, getting hit by a Bubble Beam, using another Bear, bringing out Drinky, finishing the turtle off with a Zap Cannon. That brings out his Barbarnacle, gets Zap Cannon as well. He then brings out Redux Machamp, so I go Joey, surviving a Drain Punch, going for a King Shield. Machamp uses a Revenge, and by a Clay Rough, I King Shield again, and a second Clay Rough takes the Machamp down. So Alolan Muck comes around, knocking off Joey's leftovers. I go for a Hyper Fang, but doesn't do much. And then I play Rough, trying to drop his attack. Swapping out into Drinky. But Matt hard swaps Corviknight. It gets obliterated by a Zap Cannon. He brings the less crippled Muck back around, going for a knockoff, before being hit by a Zap Cannon, which it survives. A critical knockoff takes down Drinky, and I go Joey again, dropping its attack with going for a Hyper Fang. Joey gets Gunk Shotted, going down, and I go into Dun-Dun-Dun, Mystic Dancing on the Carnivine, being hit by a Fertile Fangs, getting a special attack buff, but going down to a second Fertile Fangs before I can hit. So I go Nimbus, getting hit by a Snap Trap, Hyper Beam away, not finishing it off, losing a turn and almost being taken out, before taking it down with a second Hyper Beam. Ready to have my next gym battle with the terrible twins, Kate and Liza. Kick things off with a Delphox and a Moraine Brew. I lead with Kyle the Eevee and Corduroy, going for a Batty Bat, setting up Reflect, almost taking the Delphox out with a Dynamic Punch, confusing him. Barely taking any damage from foul play. The Delphox hits itself, Kyle takes it down with a Swift, and a Dynamic Punch confuses the Oranguru. Slowbro Galar comes out, evolving, hitting a Kinetic Barrage, confusing Kyle. Flipsy glows the Oranguru, setting up White Screen. As a Dynamic Punch, one-shots the Slowbro. A Slowking and a Lunatone come out to replace them. Kyle's hit by a Future Sight. The Slowking sets up a Psychic Terrain, and I hard swap in a Looper, confusing the field. Being hit by a Flamethrower and getting burned in the process. As a Dizzy Punch almost takes the Lunatone down, but it has 30, his policy buff, hitting itself in confusion. Metachan comes out, getting a special defense buff thanks to the Psychic Seed it has. That Dynamic punches the Slowking, taking it down, as Looper is almost taken down by a high jump kick. Corduroy hits himself, Panda finishes their last Pokemon. Securing my Mind Badge. Over at the Moxie Weather Station, I have a gauntlet battle with Team Magma. The first grunt going Rotom, getting Teeter Danced by Looper, as I hard swap out into Steve. Thanks to Flamethrower, setting up spikes, transforming into a Dragon type with Conversion 2. Resisting the next attack, burning to go back some HP. I cure my burn, swapping out into Slappy. As he gets burned too, Thrower takes down my Bayonet. So I go into Nimbus, take the Rotom out with the hidden power. And Vernal comes out next. So I swap out into Looper. Then Vernal hits itself in confusion, and takes a little bit of damage from Toxic Spill, before a Viral Strike almost takes it down. Finishes himself off. The second grunt reaches the hip out on, becoming confused on entry, taking a bunch of damage from a fake out, and getting destroyed by a close combat. A Logan Dugtrio comes out next, plus weapon and Steve, using his Rocky Helmet to do a bunch of damage to the multi-headed Pokemon. Second Iron Head takes Steve out, and I go back into Looper, taking the Dugtrio again with a fake out, as a Garganacl comes around. So I swap out into Joey, and the Garganacl starts setting up with hers. I go for a King Shield, then swap into Looper, getting hit by a Body Press, getting a close combat on it. It heals up with a Citrus Berry, Body Pressing again, and I go Nimbus, going for a Hidden Power Water, finishing off the Garganacl, so I can fight the third grunt, who leads with the Garbodor, and it evolves, sets up a Volt Up. I crunch it with Joey, but it doesn't do much. Trying to King Shield, misjudging, and it bolts up again. So I swap out into Nimbus, but he gets taken down by a Drain Punch. So I go Drinky, and Zap Cannon, not quite taking it out, but thankfully the second one is able to. As the Grunt goes Beedrill, it gets annihilated by a Zap Cannon as well. Going into his last Lamora, I hard swap Joey, and we both protect. I survive a Sludge Wave, going for a Crunch, lowering its defense. Then Crunch again, finishing off the Glamora, allowing me to move on to the next fight with Admin Tabitha, but at least we get to heal in between. I leave Looper against the Steelix. After getting off the Confusion, I swap in a Steve, going for a Conversion 2, becoming a Grass type. As the Steelix hits itself, I set up again, getting hit by an Iron Fangs, going for a Recover. The second Iron Fangs hits, and I Conversion 2 again into a Fire type, setting up again and becoming Electric this time, hitting an Earth Power, taking the Steelix down. Colossal comes out next, evolving, hitting a Tar Shot, going for a Magma Storm, taking out Steve, so I go Nimbus, who gets hit by a Power Gem, retaliating with a Hidden Power Water, and the Thunderbolt trigger takes down the Colossal. Sectoractus comes in next, going for a Megaton Hammer, taking down Nimbus, so I go Looper, hitting a Fake Out, taking a little bit of Sharp Edges damage, and going for a Feint to finish it off. Rio comes in next. I swap into Joey, surviving a Drill Run, lowering its attack with King Shield. It goes for a Drill Peck, still can't take Joey down, and I hit a Play Rough, then Hyper Fangs. Taking the bird out, I stab at the Ghost Go Villain, It hits a solar beam. Joey hangs on, going for a hyper bang. And it survives on one, getting taken out next turn. Magnimus comes out next, and I King Shield, lowering its attack, before being hit by a Night Slash. Retaliating with a grunt, and King Shielding again, swapping out into Looper, getting bled by a Night Slash. Or for a fake out, and then a feint to win. With the grunts out of the way, I can have a double battle with the big boys, helping Steven Stone against Maxie and Courtney, leading with Kyle and Aggron against their Ninetales and BDM. But Ninetales goes for a gem boosted heat wave, almost taking Kyle down. He sets up a bad reflect, as the Ninetales gets head smashed. The BDM goes for a Glitzy Glow, and a Hisui and Lilligant comes out, hitting Aggron, then getting Glitzy Glowed by Kyle, who gets Zap Cannon, going for a Swift, almost getting the Lilligant down. But it survives, kicking Aggron again, who head smashes BDM. Camera Up comes out, and evolving. Kyle finishes the Lilligant off with a Swift, as the Camera Up goes for a Searing Shot, taking my EV out, nearly ending Steve's Aggron as well, so I go Looper, and they bring out a Mega Granbull as Steve hard swaps Metagross, Meteor matching the Granbull, then going back to his Aggron, who gets finished off by a Searing Shot from the Camera Up, as he brings out his Genesect. I feint into the Camera Up with Looper, and they bring out a Hydreigon, who gets hit by a close combat but survives, taking my Panda down with a Breaking Swipe, so Steve's Genesect has to finish it off with a Powder Snow, winning the battle for us, saving the space station from Team Magma. I head across the new ice route, over to Sootopolis City, where I talk to this Aqua guy, and catch a lift to Seafloor Caverns, so I can finally track down Archie. And just as I'm about to reach Kyogre, he finds me, brandishing the blue orb to awaken the water beast, leading me to a battle, which he leads with Fion. I go Looper, hitting a Fake Out, doing a little bit of toxic spill damage, then for a Viral Strike, taking down his Legendary as he goes Sharpedo, Mega Evolving it, and going for a Death Roll. Going through my Focus Sash with Hyper Aggressive, so I go Drinky and Zap Cannon, taking his Shark down as he goes Garchomp Redux, a foolish move in the Trick Room. Dreadnought comes out next, and the new sprite looks great. It Leaf Blades Kyle, getting hit by a Bat, going for another Leaf Blade, before being taken down. Archie then goes Kilowattrel, and I hit a Swift, being taken down by its Flash, going Sloth, surviving a super effective Razor Wind, taking the bird out with a return, as Archie goes Hisui and Goodra, Dragon Rushing my Snorlax, and I begin to set up with Curse. Goodra goes for another Dragon Rush, taking me down to the red, but I heal up with Leftovers, surviving, and hit a Fissure, which it survives, going for another Dragon Rush, taking my Snorlax down, so I go into Nimbus, and he gets Dragon Rushed as well, hanging on, getting a special attack buff, and going for a Dragon Pulse, causing Archie to reflect on his actions, as Maxie comes in to warn us about the impending cataclysm. We head outside to witness the destruction, heading over to Sootopolis City, where we find the legendary duo battling, which Rayquaza takes offense to, descending from the sky, just to tell Kyogre and Groudon to go to hell home, Deus Ex Machina style. With the legendaries back in their respective homes, it's time to take on the final gym leaders, Juan and Wallace, in a double-double battle, which they lead with Redux Gardevoir and the Convergent Weezing storming. I go Kyle and Steve, setting up Reflective Bat, and using Conversion 2 to change it to a water type, getting hit by a Terralock, setting up spikes, as Kyle goes down to a Hurricane, healing back some damage with Recover, and going into Looper. I confuse the field, faking out the storming, being hit by Terralocks again, hitting an Earth Power, taking down the Redux Gardevoir. Everybody takes a bit of damage from Toxic Spill, and a Dugong comes in, getting hurt by the spikes, and Mega Evolving, being hit by close combat, and hitting an Icy Wind, going for a Drill Run, almost taking Looper down, and storming Thunderbolt Steve, who hangs on at 1, try attacking the Dugong. I then hard swap Nimbus, finishing the Dugong off with a close combat, and the Weezing hits itself in confusion. I go for a Viral Strike, the Weezing hits itself again, and a Hyper Beam finishes it off, making Juan and Wallace go into their last Pokemon, Groudontless. He takes down my Panda, before being taken out with a Hyper Beam, ending the first battle, and starting the real challenge. They lead with a Ferrothorn and a Redux Tinkaton, who Needle Arm Steve immediately finishing him off, setting up Creeping Thorns, as I zap cannon the tank. I go Sloth, and they bring out a Kingdra, which Mega Evolves. The Ferrothorn sets up a Leech Seed, Drinky, zap cannons the Kingdra. Next turn, the Ferrothorn Spiky Shields, and I zap cannon it. Going for Curse with Sloth. I hard swap Nimbus. Going for a Fissure. Despite setting up, it still doesn't do much. I go for a Hyper Beam, hitting a Thunderbolt trigger, and both not very effective hits are enough to bring it into Fissure range. The Gym Leaders then bring out a Milotic, gets Wood Hammered, going down in one shot, so they bring out a Magikarp, a Joke Pokemon, which uses Bounce, before being Hyper Beamed into Oblivion, ending the final gym battle and getting me my Rain Badge. Outside the gym, I run into May, and she gives me a lift over to Evergrande City, where we part ways. And I head into the cave, where I run into Wally, who challenges me to one last battle, kicking things off with a Redux Tyranitar, as I go dun-da-dun, going for a Mystic Dance, surviving a Solar Beam, getting another special attack buff from Tipping Point. I go for an Earth Power and it tries to weaken it with a Shucka Berry, but it's not enough. And he goes into a Shaman, who gets Air Slashed, but survives and retaliates with a Giga Drain. So I go Nimbus, who gets Leech Seeded, but takes the Shaman out with a Hyper Beam. Wally then goes Gallade, Mega Evolving it, and obliterating my Dragon with a Pixie Slash. So I bring out Drinky, and hit a Technoblast with one shot into Glade. Polarctic comes out next, so I swap in a Bear of my own, hitting Jawlog, and healing up with a Drain Punch. I Drain Punch again next turn, taking the Polarctic down, and Wally brings out a Magnezone, which goes for a Parabolic Charge, nearly taking out my Beporten, so I hard swap Drinky, getting Parabolic Charged again, going for a Zap Cannon. Not quite one-shotting, Wally then goes into his Garchomp. So I go Ted, sacrificing him to get a clean switch into Joey, so that I can King Shield. Surviving a Seismic Blade doesn't quite one-shot, Hyper Fang does the job, ending my last battle with Wally, so that I can proceed to Victory Road proper. On the other side of Victory Road, I find my good pal Calvin waiting for me. He leads with his Dugong Kecleon fusion, and I lead with Looper, who said I changed specifically for this battle, setting up Toxic Terrain, and going for an Aura Force. I survive an Aurora Beam, but my attack is lowered. I go for Protect, and the Dugong hits itself in confusion, goes into a Wobbuffet, who gets Aura Force, taking barely any damage, encoring me, hitting me with Counter. The battle goes back and forth like this for a long time, because the Wobbuffet can't be damaged by the Toxic Terrain, or my Toxic Spillability. Eventually, my Pokemon succumbs, and I bring in Scarlet with hard swap Tinkaton, surviving my Blood Moon, and hitting back with a Gigaton Hammer. So I bring in Simba, going for an Overheat, choosing 2 special attack. He brings out his Wobbuffet again, hitting me with a Mirror Coat, so I go Dun-da-dun, finishing the Wobbuffet off with a Tri-Attack. Goes into a Skullbris, hitting a Throat Chop, getting Tri-Attack, becoming paralyzed so that a second Tri-Attack hits it. He then goes into a Smeargle, and that gets one-shotted by a Tri-Attack. His last Pokemon is a Shedinja, which used to be a Jokemon but now Mega Evolves, hitting a Fury Cutter, taking down Dun-da-dun, so I bring in Treble, putting it to sleep with Sing to buy some time. I chatter away, and it hits itself, taking itself down. And with Calvin out of the way, I can proceed to the last rest. Then at the last rest stop, I proceed through the badge check, preparing to fight the first Elite Four member, the Dark Master Sydney, who leads with a Scrapster. I lead with Mega Bayonet, hard swapping in a Ted, tanking a Lash Out, then a Knockoff, but losing my Cacfest, going for a Play Rough, not quite taking it down. A Drain Punch finishes the job, and a Houndoom comes out. So I hard swap Simba, surviving an Overheat, hitting Scorching Sands. The Houndoom survives on 1, going for Black Magic, but goes down to its Life Orb as King Gambit comes out. So I go back in attack, taking massive damage from a Psycho Cut, healing it back with a Drain Punch. Soul comes out, Mega Evolving, hitting a Light of Ruin, sending Ted away, so I go Looper, being hit by a Psyblade, going down to my Focus Sash and hitting a Viral Strike, taking out the Fairy type as a Beedrill comes in, taking a bit of damage from Faint before hitting my Panda, as I go Slappy, and finish it with an Astonish. Redux Concentricity comes out, hitting a Snarl, before being Shadow Hammered. And I pass the first Elite Four member, allowing me to proceed to the second, the Ghostmaster Phoebe, who leads with a Dusknoir, getting astonished by Slappy, switching out with its eject button, into a Mega Sableye, so I hard swap Ted, tanking its Foul Play, and with the power of Scrappy I hit it with a Drain Punch, then finish it off with a Feint. Oricorio comes out next, nearly taking Ted down with an Air Slash, so I hard swap into Drinky, going for a Zap Cannon, but it has a Focus Sash, getting off a Zap Jive, and a Revelation Dance. Before a second Zap Cannon clips its wings, Redux Aegislash comes out, cross-chopping my Porygon, so I go Slappy, but it hard swaps, and Phoebe brings out her Fanfernal, who takes the Astonish instead, going down to a Shadow Hammer. Ninetales comes out, now a Ghost type, hitting Slappy with a Mystical Fire, before being obliterated by a Shadow Hammer as well, sending Dusknoir back in, so I hard swap Ted, sacrificing him to get a clean switch into Montana. Setting up with Tidy Up, a second Earthquake activates my berry. Thief Trigger does a bunch of damage, and I finish the Dusknoir off the bite. Redux Aegislash comes out, taking some lovely bite damage before cross-chopping. And I go Slappy, hitting an Astonish to finish it, so that I can proceed to the third Elite Four member. But Frozen-Hearted Glacia, who leads with an Auroras, hitting Aura Force Bar Looper, setting up an Aurora Veil. A second Aura Force does a bit of damage, and it hits a Sheer Cold, doing much more. As I try to whittle it away, it hits itself in confusion, and is taken out by Toxic Spill. So Brinice comes out, setting up Psychic Terrain, which I destroy with Montana, surviving its attack, and healing back with my berry, tanking an Alluring Voice, having it with a Super Fang, then doing a bit with a bite, before going down to bleed, bringing Looper back out, and confusing it, going for a Fake Out, and letting Toxic Spill finish the job. Polvartic comes out, and I hard swap Slappy. With its Drain Punch going right through me, I go for an Astonish, and then a Shadow Hammer, ending the bear, healing up with Soul Eater as Ice Cube comes out. I break its disguise as it sets up a Belly Drum, being hit by a Triple Dive, losing my Bayonet, going into Looper, and using Fake Out, finishing it off with Feint. Redux Empoleon comes out, ending Looper with a Hurricane, so I go Drinky, and Zap Cannon it. They then break out a Frostlass, so the Mega evolves, going for double team, but I can't miss my Zap Cannon, taking down Glacia's last Pokemon, so that I can proceed to the final Elite Four member, the Dragon Master Drake. He leads with a Walking Wake, who gets confused by Looper, then is chipped by Fake Out, taking a little bit from Toxic Spill, going down to Viral Strike. Regidrago comes out, so I hard swap Drinky, setting up Trick Room, going down to a Dragon Pulse, going into Ted, and hitting a Play Rough. It's not enough to one-shot, and the Regidrago goes for Searing Shot, but Ted hangs on, and a second Play Rough finishes it. Drake then brings out Archaludon, which is almost taken out by a Drain Punch, but survives going for a Dark Pulse. I hard swap Looper, confusing the Archaludon, which uses a Steel Beam, and is then taken out by a Feint. Kyurem Black comes in next, being hit by an Aura Force, taking down Looper, as I go Simba, hitting an Energy Wave, before being hit by an Earthquake, which my Lion survives, taking down the Dragon. Redux Machamp comes in next, Mega Evolving, and is hit by an Energy Wave, getting a Stamina boost, before Sky Uppercutting Simba, so I go Slappy, hitting an Astonish, then a Double Edge, but it's still not enough, and I take a Dragon Hammer, going for a Shadow Hammer of my own, sending Drake into his last Pokemon, Fujiflap, who gets one-shotted by Shadow Hammer, and I'm ready to face the champion. I climb the final set of stairs, steeling myself for one last battle against Steven Stone for the title of Hoenn Champion. He leads with his Genesect, and I lead Looper, hitting a Fake Out, then an Aura Force, taking down his legendary. Steve goes into a Claydol, and I hard swap Montana, dodging the Psychic attack and going for a Tidy Up, but being taken down by a Dazzling Gleam before I can hit. So I go Slappy, annihilating the Claydol with a Shadow Hammer. Steve then goes into Metagross, Mega Evolving, taking a Shadow Hammer as well, but surviving. Going for Agility, so I hard swap Ted and hit a Feint, bypassing all its speed. Slitherwing comes out, going for a Bulk Up, being hit by a Play Rough, then Flying Pressing Ted, before going down to a second Play Rough. Redux Aggron comes out, going for a Berserker Horn, hitting Ted so he doesn't heal with Drain Punch, taking him down, so I go Drinky and Zap Cannon. Steve goes into his Cradilly, and I hard swap Looper. It begins to set up Stockpile, before hitting itself and being hit by an Aura Force. I hard swap again into Simba, resisting its Giga Drain, and hitting a Scorching Sands, which doesn't do much. We go back and forth, till I get a burn, and go back in a looper, faking it out, and going for a viral strike, bringing down Steve's last Pokemon, so that I can savor a sweet final victory, and register my team in the Hall of Champions. See you guys next time for Mono Fire. Token Deathmage out.